Hey guys, it's Kevin again. It's gonna be another movie review for you guys. Movie reviewing. I was definitely looking forward to this movie. I wouldn't say it's one of my most anticipated movies of the year, but it was definitely one of my most anticipated comedies of the year. I was really looking forward to it. I was hoping it would be really good. And that movie is Ted 2. Now, I really enjoyed the first Ted. I think that it was a really fun movie. I mean, it had some really fun humor, some really great acting, surprisingly some really good heart as well, and I was really hoping Ted 2 would keep all that and, have exactly what the first one did, be as good as the first one, and pretty much just be a great sequel. That's what I wanted to be, that's what I wanted out of Ted 2. The plot seemed really good. And after watching Ted 2, what I think of this movie, Ted 2 overall is a really good sequel. It's a really good sequel. It's not as good as the first one, but for the most part, I really enjoyed this movie. It does have a few problems, definitely more than the first one, but for the most part, I really enjoyed. So let's get to the plot of Ted 2, which the plot of Ted 2 is just, it honestly is pretty genius. I love the plot of Ted 2. Because basically, Ted has now married his girlfriend, Tammy Lynn, and they're fighting constantly. They're just not getting along very well. So Ted comes up with this idea that they're going to try to conceive a child. Unfortunately, though, they can't do that because Ted doesn't have any reproductive functions, and Tammy Lynn can't do it because she um, basically did some drugs, and it caused her to basically be infertile, and basically he has to find a sperm donor, and John decides to volunteer to be the sperm donor. However, Ted soon finds out that he can't actually do this. He can't actually get John to be the sperm donor because basically when after Tammy Lynn basically find out that she's infertile. They want to adopt a child. They find out though that they can't do this because Ted is legally not a person. He is an object. So basically, he wants to prove that he is a person. That way, he can, you know, fulfill this promise to Tammy Lynn, and that basically is a plot of Ted 2. And there are other subplots in the movie, but that's the main plot, and I think the plot, honestly, is pretty genius. I think, it's a really different plot, and I actually really do like that about the movie. I think it honestly is pretty funny. So let's get to the acting first in this movie, because the acting is one of the things that makes this movie as good as it is. Honestly, had the acting not been as good, the movie wouldn't have been as good. Definitely Seth MacFarlane as Ted has a lot more to do in this movie. He's hilarious, honestly. He does a great job as this bear, and most of it he improvs. I'm pretty sure Seth MacFarlane improv because he directed the movie, so he can do whatever the fuck he wanted with it. He did a great job as Ted. I mean, he was just so funny as this bear who's just saying the most raunchy stuff, and it's hilarious to watch. And I thought he did a great job. You actually really do care about his character, though. I really cared about his character. They deepen his character more. That's something I thought they did really well in this movie. You see how much he cares about his family, how much he really sees himself as this person, and I think they did a really good job with that. I definitely really liked that about this movie. I thought Seth MacFarlane definitely did a great job. Mark Wahlberg as John doesn't have as much to do in this movie, but I do think that the chemistry between Ted and, John is still there. John in this movie, basically his plot is that he's trying to get over to Lori because he has now basically divorced her, and basically after he's divorced her, he's looking for love, and I didn't really feel like his plot was in the movie enough, but I thought he did an overall good job. My thing is just, though, he didn't really have much to do in the movie, and that was kind of a problem for me, because the first one was pretty much John's movie. I mean, Ted was in it, but Ted was more of a supporting role, and in this, John's more of a supporting role, so that was kind of interesting. However, the best part of this movie, in my opinion, the person that steals the show in this movie, is Amanda Seyfried as Sam L. Jackson. Oh my god, her character is so great in the movie. It's not so much as she stole the show, but just her character added so much to the movie. By far, the best part of this movie is the chemistry between these three. These three are hilarious to watch. They have hilarious moments. There's a great recurring joke with her character that I absolutely loved. I thought her character was hilarious, and I thought the three of them interacted so well, and that's something I couldn't have asked for more for that in this movie. That was awesome, and that's something I thought worked really well, is that they worked perfectly together, honestly. They worked great, and I really liked their dynamic, and I thought they just worked really well. Jessica Barth as Tammy Lynn is really great as well. I thought she was really funny in the movie. Biggest problem in this movie, though, is Giovanni Ribisi as Donnie. The guy from the first movie. He's back in this movie. I don't know why he's back in this movie. I honestly don't know. His plot was completely unnecessary, I didn't feel like he needed to be in the movie at all, and he wasn't good in the movie. Patrick Warburton is really great in the movie. The movie has some great cameos that I don't want to spoil because some are just so funny that you have to watch the movie for yourself. And when I saw some of them, I was like, oh my god, that's hilarious. And there's one, they don't show it to you in the trailer. They don't. And when you guys see it, you are going to be laughing hysterically. It is a hilarious cameo, and they did a great job of that. It was really funny. So, the acting, for the most part, was really good. I think everyone did a really good job, and that's really good. The directing by Seth MacFarlane, though, I feel is the biggest problem of this movie, because it's not that it was bad. It wasn't bad directing, honestly. I wouldn't say anything about this movie is truly horrible. Nothing about this movie is bad. But it just didn't work like it did in the first movie. A lot of times I didn't feel like he knew what he wanted this movie to be, because the first half of this movie is just a bunch of shits and giggles laughs with them trying to find the sperm donor, and then we really get into Ted becoming a person, and the movie really changes into this much more dramatic movie. It wasn't that the heart didn't work. There are moments where the heart works very well, but I did feel like sometimes it just felt kind of forced, and I felt like he was trying to recreate what made the first movie so good. And here's the thing, lightning doesn't always strike twice, my friend. That's the thing. And I don't think Seth MacFarlane realized that he, not everything that worked in the first movie would have worked as well in this movie. And that was a problem for me. And the direction was sometimes all over the place. But for the most part, I thought he did a good job. The plot was good. I thought, the humor was definitely on point, and that's something I thought was really good. By far the best part of this movie, besides the dynamic between the three leads, is the screenplay. The screenplay is great. If you love the first movie, if you thought it was really funny, you'll love this movie. It's really funny. There's some, really funny recurring jokes. There's some really quotable lines as well in this movie that I loved. I mean, just the writing is so funny in this movie. Again, though, the heart just didn't really work. What they're trying to do, they try to set up this whole, thing that I don't want to talk about. The third act of this movie, I felt like they did way too much. Like, they could have changed a lot of stuff. They could have maybe not done as much, and maybe the movie would have been better. I felt like they did way too much in the third act of this movie, and if they would have maybe cut it down a little bit, then the movie would have been a lot better. And that was a big problem for me, which is I felt like they were trying to do way too much, and I felt like I wish they wouldn't have done as much as they did in the movie. They could have done a lot more, honestly. They really could have. And again, there are some subplots, like John is very underused and things like that. And also, some of the jokes don't work. Some of the jokes, I was just like, okay, that was kind of funny. There are some jokes that were absolutely hysterical, I will say that. But then there's some things where they just reference it, and it seems like they're just referencing it to reference it. It doesn't make the movie funny. This is a problem that Family Guy has a lot, that they do these cutaways, and sometimes they are very funny. And this movie kind of felt like that. A Family Guy will do those cutaways, and sometimes it's like, okay, that made no sense, but it was kind of funny. Ted 2 is kind of like that in the sense that sometimes it's really funny, and then sometimes you just have these weird references that you don't know why they're in the movie, you don't know why they're in there, and it just seemed like Seth MacFarlane put them in there to reference it because it's popular. One that I'm still scratching my head as to why it was even in here. I don't understand it. I really don't know why that was in there, but whatever. The narration was really funny in this movie as well by Patrick Stewart. I thought he was hilarious. He has a great narration in the beginning of the movie. Definitely, that was really funny. Cinematography, fine in this movie. Ted looked really good. I thought the cinematography was definitely fine. The movie definitely didn't look lazy. They definitely tried with the movie, and I thought that was really good. The musical number as well. Oh my god, this movie opens with this awesome musical number. It was hilarious. I was dying. It was great. Honestly, the musical number was great. The score, I thought, was really good as well. The editing to this movie. That's another thing that this movie is a problem with, because this movie is a lot longer than the first one. It's 115 minutes, guys. That's really pushing it, and you really feel the length. Sometimes I say, oh, I didn't really feel it. It went by very quickly. No, you feel the length of this movie. You feel like the first two halves went by very quickly. Third half was just like, all right, can we end this now? Okay, no, no, you're going in that direction. All right. The third half went in so many weird directions, and I don't really know what they were trying to do. it didn't ruin the movie for me, but it kind of just made me feel like I just want this thing to end already. Seriously, it felt like the movie that wouldn't end, honestly. It's one of those movies where it's a really good movie, but then it keeps going on and on and on, and there were like 3 times when I felt the movie could have ended, and it didn't. The way it ended, I thought was really good. I really did like the ending to this movie, but there were some things I just found kind of unnecessary, and I'm going to talk about them right now. These are spoilers. If you guys haven't seen Ted 2, see it. You'll really enjoy it. It's just as good. It's not as good as the first one, but I think it still is a really good movie, and I think you still should check it out. It's the sequel they probably want, but it does have these problems, and I am going to talk about them in the spoilers. So, the whole thing with Ted at Comic-Con, I mean, that whole thing was so unnecessary when Donnie caught him and basically did the same exact thing that happened in the first movie. It just didn't work this time around. I mean, the scene where, Sam is telling Ted that, the scene where Sam is telling Ted that she basically is, that he is a person. Oh, also, something else we're going to talk about the movie. The movie had this one hilarious scene with this thing called fuck me eyes, where women look at you and give you the fuck me eyes. Oh my god, that was probably one of the funniest jokes in the movie. And also the recurring joke with Sam Jackson not knowing anything about the pop culture, yet her name is Sam Jackson, I thought was hilarious. The way she was like, oh, what's that movie? What's that? Like, when she didn't know what Rocky was, that was hilarious. And then when she, was joking around, didn't know what Superman was, I thought that was really good as well. Just all the jokes they did with that was great. I love that stuff. But then when we got into the whole Donnie capturing Ted, the movie kind of lost me. I was like, alright, just end already. I don't really care about this, because the same exact thing as the second movie, as the first movie. You know Ted's going to be okay. You know nothing bad's going to happen. And then when John was hurt and you thought he was going to die, I was like, this is completely unnecessary, because John wasn't a big part of the movie. Like, he was a big part of the movie, but his goal was pretty much to help Ted. That's what he did in the movie. Yeah, he found love in Sam, but that wasn't his thing in the movie. His thing was to find love, and, his thing in the movie was to, to be with Ted and help him out. That's what he wanted to do. So when he was in the hospital and then we found out it was fake, I was just like, that's really dumb. I felt like that was completely unnecessary. You could have cut that part of the movie out altogether, and I really wouldn't have cared. Honestly, if they would have cut that part of the movie, I wouldn't have cared. I think it would have been fine if the movie just ended after Donnie was arrested. I would have been fine with that. And, when Patrick Meighan came in, it could have just been the same way. You didn't have the whole, John in the hospital bit, and that would have been fine. Yeah, I get that Sam has to fall in love with him, but you could have done it in a better way. I just feel like they could have handled that better. And then the ending of the movie I thought was really good as well. I definitely really like that. But overall, guys, Ted 2 is a really good sequel. I think that it is not as good as the first movie, but it is still a very entertaining sequel. I laughed a lot. It was what I wanted to be. It did go off the rails a couple times, but for the most part, I really enjoyed it. Don't make a Ted 3, though, please. Don't make a Ted 3. I do think that Seth MacFarlane did a good job with it. I do think that he did a good job. He did have some references that didn't really make sense. What was up with the Jurassic Park reference, guys? I didn't understand that at all, honestly. The Jurassic Park reference made no sense whatsoever. I don't know why that was in the movie. I don't know what they were trying to do, but that made no sense to me. But overall, that's my review of Ted 2. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Let me know if you guys saw this movie, you have seen it. I overall really did enjoy it. I'd probably watch it a second time. If I were to rate the movie, 3.9 out of 5 or a B. Can't get it to 4. I wanted to give it a B+, but after that third half, I'm like, I have to give it a B. I love the first 2 halves of this movie. I really did. The third half, it kind of fell apart for me. Honestly, it did. But that's basically my review. Hope you guys enjoy it. I will see you guys in my next video, which will be for another classic movie review, and I will see you guys for that. Okay, bye.